Link in the description if you want to go pick one up. Don't worry if it breaks when it comes to your house. I'll send you another one for free out of my pocket. I don't care. I want you to get your liberal tier mug. It comes in liberal tiers, white with the face, black with the face, white without the face, and black without the face. So pick whichever one you want, and it'll come to your door in about 3 to 5 days. So that should be epic. First link in the description. Thank you. Let's go on with the video.
Defend your allegation that I'm a white supremacist. Just try, do it.
Because you're enabling it. Because you have the main platform that is spreading.
What am I enabling? Because what I've talked about this evening isn't race or skin color, I've talked about values. And when the BBC did what you're attempting to do now, as 1.3 million people have seen on my YouTube channel, what they did was try to conflate an admiration for American values, for the First and Second Amendment, for freedom, democracy, property rights, capitalism. They tried to conflate that with race. They tried to say, if you're proud of your country, or you admire the values of another country, that somehow makes you a racist. It doesn't. So I ask you one final time, please justify your allegation that I'm a white supremacist.
As a journalist and as a reach to millions of people, you have an obligation, and you are blowing it with this hateful rhetoric that's further dividing this country.
What hateful rhetoric? You're not answering the question. White supremacists hate me. The Daily Stormer is the epicenter of white supremacists on the internet. They declared a holy war on me. They said they would never read Breitbart again until Breitbart fired me. They said I was their #1 enemy. White supremacists and anti-Semites hate me. I prefer the expression race mixing kike faggot, but whatever. Sir, racists hate me. They hate me. Of course they do. So racists hate me, but I'm a white supremacist. You're just confusing me. You're confusing me. And I'm very easily confused because I'm a homosexual, but should we give him another chance? Give him one more chance. Okay. All right. Okay. One more try. I believe in you. I believe in you. I know you can do it. One more try. Justify your allegation. I didn't ask you if I was enabling white supremacists, which is just an equally idiotic allegation, but it's not the one you made. I'm asking you to justify your allegation that I'm a white supremacist. Please do so. All right. I think we've had enough. We've had enough fun at the expense of the disabled. Thank you very much. I'm sorry you're so stupid. Thank you very much, everybody. It's been wonderful.
But let's be honest, let's not try and do this shell game here. You're talking namely about white police officers. You just said at least 4 or 5 times white kids are not as much in danger, black people, so don't bring up the race issue and then say that I'm obfuscating it. I'm not. It assumes hatred, and it doesn't look at statistical realities, and it is very dangerous to preach this and to get young black people to believe it, because it's not true. It's less true than ever.
And hence you haven't lived the life of a black person, but yet you're saying that. See,
so see what that is?
From experience.
That is an intellectual fallacy. That's not fair.
Stephen, you don't want to hear that. We have experience with the stuff.
Larry Elder says the opposite.
We're not making it up, Stephen.
Larry Elder says the opposite.
That's condescending to try to say you guys just making this stuff up.
I didn't say you're making this stuff up. I said it's incorrect. I didn't say you're making this stuff up. I said it's incorrect.
Okay, so basically you saying it's incorrect means you're making it up. It's not true.
No, it doesn't. Do you know what a lie is?
I think we all know what a lie is, Stephen.
Okay, but do you know the difference between a lie and something being incorrect?
Yes.
A lie would be, the difference would be intent. I've not applied intent here. The only person who's applied intent is you to officers. I have said you are incorrect or that information is untrue. I've not called you a liar. I'm not insinuating any manipulation.
I did not. This is what I'm telling you.
You said it's talking down to me to say I'm making this stuff up. I didn't say you're making stuff up. I said it's incorrect. Is that fair?
You said it's incorrect. Yes, you said it's correct. But what I'm telling you is that we live in this stuff. We see this stuff. I grew up seeing this stuff. We're not making it up or it's not incorrect. This is the things that we've seen in our lives, and we're talking about it. And the problem is there are some people in this country don't want us to speak about a reality that's here for the black man and black woman in America. And I'm sorry if it doesn't make you feel comfortable. Well, you know what? If you don't like it, let's fix the issue.
Well, you're making the issue worse.
You're
making the issue worse.
Talking about it is making it worse.
Your rhetoric saying that can I answer?
It'd be like me talking about cancer or, AIDS or something like that constantly and say, oh, you're making it worse because you keep talking about it. No, we want it fixed.
If we spoke about it in an incorrect way. If we spoke about it in an incorrect way. For example, if we told people you can cure AIDS by eating sea algae, we'd be making it worse because that'd be incorrect information. You saying the problem is officers of any color or stripe are assaulting young black men because, and you don't provide numbers or statistical realities, you cover up information, you don't address information when it changes, it's not accurate, and you are actually telling people to address a problem which isn't the right problem nor the right solution, and it makes it worse.
The thing about the Tracy Morgan thing, it's like...
That whole thing I thought was bullshit.
The Tracy Morgan thing?
It was absolute ridiculous bullshit.
But hang on.
Tracy Morgan is in some very hot water today for telling some very homophobic jokes at a show in Nashville last week.
The first thing he says is gays need to be tougher about insignificant things like bullying. And then he said, if my son talks to me in a gay voice, I'll pull out a knife and stab him.
I can't stand people who everything's funny, then the shit comes around to them, and then all of a sudden they stop saying it's jokes, they say it's statements. And I'm not saying because I wasn't there, he got like tried. Look, you weren't there, I wasn't there, and I just felt like he didn't get a chance to say. He just immediately went into apology mode, and then all of a sudden they're parading him around like this trophy.
And this is the only thing I'll say. You get to say whatever you want. We all get to, right?
Absolutely.
But the second it comes out of our mouths, it's no longer in our control about how it's supposed to be interpreted.
The person who said it knows what they meant by it. If you process it in a fucked up way, ask him how he meant it first.
But you don't get that luxury. As a comedian, you don't get the luxury to say, but I really meant to say it this way.
I realize that.
But here's what it really rests on, is that the whole thing came off of one guy's blog. Every news item about it.
Did Tracy deny saying it? No. Did the guy get it wrong? No. Those two things
How do you know that?
Because Tracy didn't say, wait, dude, that's not exactly what I said.
Whether he said something offensive or not, I just thought it was fucked up that one guy went home like with, I guess, the greatest memory ever, like a stenographer, and typed it out, and everybody's like, that's what he said, and that's what he meant, because guy in seat number 5F said it. And next thing you know, he's going around, got to apologize. That's kind of a scary thing as a comedian.
Well,
I've seen Tracy's act, his show is crazy. His show is pretty over the top. I was trying to remember what he was heckling. I just remember cocksuckers, so I think we were talking about gay people.
There we go.
You know, the fucking lesson here is the gay community has a very strong activist community who, when they hear shit against them, they take it to the mat, and guess what? Shit happens.
Yeah, but I don't agree with that. Guess what? Shit happens. That word, it can mean other things. It just can be ball breaking anytime you play sport. I was playing hockey the other day, okay? And this guy, he knocked me down. I felt stupid. I got up. He asked me, he goes, you all right? And I go, yeah, you faggot. Like, it was this oddly intimate moment. He was going, are you okay? And we were on the ice, and it made me uncomfortable. And I said, hey, you faggot, get away from me.
Like, why was it that faggot was the word that came to you when he was trying to help you?
These are the questions that they should ask. Rather than saying, you said it, so it means this. Why did it come? Because of the way I grew up, because of the way guys are. You're not supposed to be, I fell down, are you okay?
I have a Liz Winstead story from when I was an open micer that I'd like to share with you. She's on stage. She had her friend Janine DeTullio, who was a very funny comic from Boston. They're all palling around backstage, this whole girls' club. She got on stage, and she said, I'm hosting open mic night, and when I'm here hosting open mic night, I've got rules. She has a list she's reading. She decides that she's going to interrupt the stand-up comedians while they're on stage and stop them from performing their jokes. This guy, Brian, I forget his fucking name, he was a guy who would struggle to keep it together on stage every time. And he was a very gifted comic writer, but a very uncomfortable performer. So he goes on stage, and he has this joke. something about I always make sure I open up the car door for my hooker. And Liz Winstead interrupts, "Stop, stop, stop, sexism." And he says, "And don't think he doesn't appreciate it," which is his punchline. Okay, shit. So she's standing on stage right after he says that, and she stopped him, and he's so awkward. He's got his eyes closed during his fucking thing.
Now, we have this idea that before feminism came along in the 60s and 70s, that domestic violence against women was completely socially acceptable. Now, I don't understand how one can come to that conclusion when the President of the United States wanted to bring back corporal punishment, which had been banned, right, in most states at that time, exclusively to punish men who batter their wives. And especially since the treatment in communities for men who were battered by their wives, of which there were many, and you can see friezes and artwork from the 1600s and the 1700s that show women battering their husbands with their rolling pins and their skillets and all of that. Robbie Burns' Ode to a Henpecked Husband. All of those things. There were women who were abusive to men at that time. And the treatment that the community gave those men was either the Skimmington Ride, which was the practice of the community coming around the house at night and beating pots and pans and screaming and throwing things at the house to shame him for allowing himself to be beaten by his wife. Or they put him on a donkey backwards, holding its tail, and rode him around the town square and threw, or strapped him to a cart, and threw rotten fruit and vegetables at him to shame him for allowing his wife to beat him. Okay? And these things have been just quietly erased from modern scholarship and modern accounts of history, right? Back when we thought it was okay to beat your wife, right? When we thought it was okay to beat your wife, at least when it was extremely egregious, particularly egregious, we'd strap the guy to a whipping post and give him 30 lashes. When your wife was beating you, right, it was you that got punished by the community, right? So I don't know that feminism has a balanced perspective on any of these things. I really don't.
Joining us now is Hampshire College student Daniel Vogel, who was in favor of removing the flag, though didn't burn it. Daniel, thanks a lot for coming on tonight. So I want to read you a quote from you. This is to the Amherst Bulletin, and you said, "Think about the groups who use the flag, from police officers to the U.S. Army. These are the forces on the ground that make oppression happen." Now, the obvious point is, obviously, if the police and the Army were to go away, sensitive college students like you would be eaten alive. What's the median family income in this country? Do you know?
The median family income in this country?
Yeah. What does a median family make? Yeah, it's
the
much
median
less.
family in this country?
Yeah, it's much less than 1 year of your
$60,000.
schooling. Yeah, of $62,000, which is what you pay or your parents pay for you to go to Hampshire school and burn the American flag. It's much less than that. And so I just wonder if you understand the bounty that you have, the good deal that you have, the excess that you're benefiting from. Do you get that at all?
Oh, no, I am 100% privileged to be at this institution. And I think that I have to recognize the fact that the wealth of my parents that was able to pay for this institution was garnered off of slavery and was taken from exploitation. The land that I live on was taken from Native peoples, and the land that I live on back in Portland, back home, was taken from Native peoples. It's the wealth of the people who've been oppressed and who've had things stolen from them that allow me to go to this institution.
But then, so why are you doing it? I mean, honestly, why are you doing it? I mean, why not go pick apples in Washington State? Why are you consuming $62,000 a year of this blood money, as you describe it, to sit around campus and do pointless rhetorical and symbolic acts like burning flags? I mean, why not work with the people, the laborers?
No, I very much disagree that symbolic, removing the flag was a not useful thing. I mean, it got me on your show, correct? It's a useful tactic in terms of getting voices out there. And I think that going to a school like Hampshire College, I'm not here to defend going to Hampshire College. What I'm here to do is I'm here to defend the removing of the flag from our campus, which was overall a democratic process.
So I can understand the context of this. Very quickly, you're for diversity, obviously, and yet I bet there's virtually nobody on your campus who's openly supporting Donald Trump. Do you yearn for more diversity on your campus, or are you happy in a world where everyone thinks like you?
I think diversity is a different word when you're applying it to political standpoints versus different aspects. Like, I can leave Hampshire College and go to UMass or Amherst College right next door and expose myself to different viewpoints. The point of Hampshire College isn't to create a model of our country and then simulate like political debate and whatnot. It's to figure out, well, what is most liberally correct? What is the most social justice academia?
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Well, I mean, when it comes to we've heard a lot about the imbalance of power between, for example, employers and employees, people who have better education versus people who have less education. I can say with a firm heart that the worst imbalance of power and the most violative principle when it comes to consent is the idea that you're losing, so you bring in the guys with the guns to enforce your point of view is to pay. That seems to me the least voluntary system, which is exactly what minimum wage is. As far as teenagers, the reason that teenagers are not constituting a huge percentage of the people working at minimum wage is because they're all unemployed. The fact is that Washington State has an incredibly high teenage unemployment rate, and when it comes to the minimum wage in the state of Washington, as we all know, the state of Washington has the highest minimum wage in the nation. So there is a relationship with regard to teenagers. Look, in an ideal world, and I'm sure we'll get to this, I'm wondering what exactly the minimum wage should be. Why $15? Why not $35? Why not $55? Why not $100? If we are going to be ideologically consistent about all of this...
Are you going to fight for a $50 minimum wage?
I will fight right alongside you for $1,000 minimum wage, because I want to see leftist policies implemented in the city so that people actually recognize what impact they have.
The fact of the matter is that the meme and the narratives are set around Black Lives Matter should be called Black Lives Matter, because they don't want to talk about the real issues around why Black lives haven't mattered. It isn't because of cops. It isn't because of America. It's because of the behavior of liberal blacks and the system that has made black people, unfortunately, put in situations where they are disproportionately criminals. And so this idea that you can't come over the top of that and say, don't all lives matter? What, 87% of this country's lives don't matter because black lives do?
And I mean, Mark, the thing is, way to get the other half to listen to you, right? I mean, how are white people going to respond to the booing of the fact that their lives should matter?
Yeah, I don't think anybody disagrees with the statement that all lives matter. I don't think any of those
I think you're wrong about that.
Protesters disagree with that. But let's listen to this in context. What was happening there was a protest that erupted about the Black Lives Matter. Obviously, there's been a lot of frustration in the black community over news of a new woman that was died in police custody again in Texas. And so
no proof that that was by an intentional action by a police officer whatsoever.
No, well, we should reserve judgment and wait to see how this unfolds.
Like we should have in the Michael Brown case in Ferguson, which helped give birth to the Black Lives Matter movement, and it was based on a lie.
The fact of the matter is more than 400, about 400 people have died at the hands, unarmed people at the hands of police, and a disproportionate number, and I'm sure Kevin is outraged by this, a disproportionate number of those is black. Now, listen to why this is insensitive.
But way more white people have been killed at the hands of police officers over the past 2 years than blacks have.
If you look at proportions, that's not
exactly right.
There's a proportion more black members of the community have. But
go ahead. That's Kevin's turn. Go ahead, Kevin.
Absolutely. Look, it's absolute fallacy. And it's what these guys do. They come on all the time. They spew out this nonsense data because they know that the least common denominator is not going to check it. It's nonsense. White people are killed in disproportionately more high numbers in percentage to crime than blacks. And you don't see white people running around talking about white lives matter.
call the cops on this campus if someone hurts your feelings? If someone hurts your feelings, and that woman at Yale yelling at the professor for saying, I think Halloween costumes should be allowed and we shouldn't be censoring them. How do you sleep at night? I'm going to leave. Good, go. I mean, I look at that. You tell me, Nomiki, because you're going to defend these people. Of course. I look at that and say, I can't wait for my kids to get out there in the world against these people. I can't wait. Well, they're going to kick some... That's my reaction. Am I wrong?
Well, okay, to be fair, these are not administration, these are students. These are 20-year-olds who are reacting, and it's a very racially charged environment. You know, words matter. And so when that letter was sent on behalf of an administration official, somebody who's supposed to represent the students, to create, you look at the documents that Yale sends out, the application documents, and it's all about having an inclusive community.
This guy was defending Halloween.
Well, he wasn't defending Halloween. He was defending being offensive to a community of people that are being marginalized. I mean, 7% of the Yale...
He was saying if you want to go as Tatiana, the frog princess, you should be allowed to.
No. He was acknowledging that someone who shows up in blackface, it's okay, it's a joke.
And you think that should be banned? You should, Halloween, that should be banned. And what if you want a guy who wants to dress like a girl? Should he be banned?
Listen, there are the stereotypes. There's plenty of stereotypes that we have changed over time. Things that would now be totally unacceptable. We had this debate about things 10
gender
years ago.
expression would be offensive if you want. So
Well,
a guy dressed up as a female nurse.
That's not for white people to determine. That's not. These things are not for the people who are doing it to determine. It is for those who feel hurt. If you feel hurt,
that's fantastic. I hope you have young kids like just exactly my kid's age. Ben, you take it. I understand the offense. I understand you go to the race place and all that, what happened to swastika, but you can't wear the Halloween costume you want unless no one finds it offensive.
Well, now the selectively offended get to run the rest of the country. I mean, this is what we are creating. We are creating a society of panty-waist fascists. What we are creating is a group of people who are oversensitive to everything and then are willing to call the cops as soon as they are offended. It's actually incredible, and it's a violation of the First Amendment, which you saw with a professor from the Mass Communications Department at Missouri telling reporters that they have no right to be there, and at Yale you have students shouting people down. If this is the climate that we're supposed to create, if this is supposed to create openness and tolerance on the campus, I'm missing the openness and tolerance in let's call the police if I'm mildly offended because my feelings have been hurt. I mean, this is creating a country of crazy people. How can you watch this and not go crazy and think that everyone who's involved in it is crazy in the first place?
How about that woman from the communications department, Nomiki?
Listen,
shutting down the student reporters from filming the protests she was promoting. Guess how you promote them? Put them on
TV. I do agree with that, and I think that Josh Earnest has said the same thing. There's a very thick line between being politically incorrect and being racist, and words matter. So when a community of people that has been perpetually marginalized at institutions across America over history feels offended, we should acknowledge that. And I think that these protests are a reflection of a community of minorities that feel unacknowledged and not respected. And so, Ben, I read your article today, and I was shocked by the language you used. You were saying that it's time for the right
call the police
to
right now.
fight. Yeah. No, but you read his column.
Evidence. All this is screaming and feelings. How about like a shred of evidence, even for the incidents that actually happened at Missouri that drove this? Really? Where was the police report exactly when it came to, for example, the first N-word incident that led all of this? There was no police report on any of that. In the second incident, at the N-word at the University of Missouri, the administration investigated, and the kid's under investigation. In the third incident with the cop car, with the car hitting the guy.
Let me just ask you this, because we're short on time. You tell me, Nomiki, whether we are training these kids to be little cupcakes who never have to encounter anything offensive, assuming everything you said is offensive. They never have to encounter it because they can call the cops or they can get their administrators fired, or whether it's better to educate them that there are offensive things in life. There are insulting things in life. There are people who will say very incorrect or impolite things about you, politically incorrect things about you, very publicly and in a way that you might feel very offended by. And you have to deal with that in life.
In moments of hysteria, fear, conflict, there have been exceptions. Internment was an exception.
Well, who's hysterical right now?
And we can have that debate later.
No, who's hysterical right now?
what I'm saying to you is, you may be right that in the absence of any kind of national hysteria, fear, terrorist attack, war, whatever, in the absence of all that, bluster may remain bluster, a guy tweeting may remain a guy tweeting, and all may be well. That's one scenario. I just think we need to be alive to a second scenario that our country also gives us the basis to think about, and which I think is underrepresented in some of these conversations, which is that at certain moments, a terrorist attack of a particular kind that fills people with fear gives the president a license to do things that he could not do 2 days before. We know that with mass surveillance. We know it with torture. We know it with internment.
I don't think it's underrepresented. I think the problem is that that fear has been overrepresented in these papers. And you have a situation where it's the boy who cried wolf, and everybody keeps talking about him being a neo-Nazi. And then what happens is, what do you call him next after call him a neo-Nazi when perhaps somebody in the administration does suggest something that
Joe, do you think
of the Constitution?
You read history and you know very well there have been moments like this where there have been disagreements about the appropriate level of alarmism.
FDR in terms.
No, I'm talking about other countries that went in worse directions than we did.
I'm talking about our country.
But the part of the problem is if we only talk about our country, we're not actually being fully vigilant.
Actually, we are being fully vigilant because, as the editor of The Economist said, our country actually is different. And by the way, there's a reason why dictators have not been able to do in our country over the past 240 years what they've been able to do in other countries. That's because James Madison put together a constitution along with Alexander Hamilton that created a system of checks and balances.
They were able,
that, by the way, that will, and I've said this to Donald Trump before, when he was attacking Paul Ryan, they said it on the air, Paul Ryan, he can shut you down and stop you from passing
under that system of checks and balances. We were able to do torture. We were able to do mass surveillance. We were able to do internment. We were able to do segregation. We were able to do slavery. So all I'm suggesting to you is that within our tradition of things that have been judged legal, I'm not saying, let's just say I'm ruling out things more worrisome than those things. But we can agree those things at different points in our history have been considered legal and constitutional.
Internment, et cetera, yes.
And the internment case, Korematsu, has never actually been overturned.
All right. So,
I understand the case for being calm, but if
I'm not saying being calm.
If you are wrong, what we get is something very much more dangerous than if I'm wrong.
Right.
That's all I'm arguing.
That's why I said we stay vigilant. I just personally have confidence in the Supreme Court of the United States and Congress and the system of checks and balances in our Constitution that I do think that we don't need to jump out of they keep yelling at us stuff. We don't need to jump out of windows with our hair on fire.
Although how Anand may feel is that's easy for us to say. I mean, your family, Thanksgiving, talking
fear
about,
is not evenly distributed right now.
That's fair.
Fear is also contagious.
Yeah, fear is contagious. And we have nothing to fear but fear itself.
Also, I think it's a little scary that a month before he even takes over the presidency, we're already talking about the need for a Supreme Court.
Well, that's scary to you. That's called the First Amendment. You want the First Amendment to suit you the way you want to suit it. I guarantee you, Anand, there are 50% of Americans at least who believe that somebody that burns the American flag should be.
And the whole point of the First Amendment
hold on a second,
is to restrain what a majority can do.
Okay, but the First Amendment also has its limits. I support the ability of people to be able to burn the American flag if they want to. But people have the right in this country to debate it. And it does not mean that the Third Reich is going to march down our streets.
I didn't say Third Reich.
Somebody tweeted it. We don't, okay.
I don't worry about flag burning. I worry about
the final say, and we've got to go because they're screaming in my ear. Go.
I don't worry about the desire to criminalize flag burning. I desire about the punishment included in that tweet, which was the stripping of citizenship, which is outside
that's
the
not going to happen.
I'm not. He's the president-elect of the United States.
And the Supreme Court
fact that he proposes it.
You're not being rational now. I've got to just say this before we go. You're not being rational. If you believe the Supreme Court of the
I'm not being rational for taking the president-elect of the United States at his word.
Let me finish, because you know what I'm going to say, and you don't want me to say it because you know I'm right. The Supreme Court of the United States of America will never, under any circumstances, allow any
I'm just stopping by to remind you that liberals are insane. Social justice warriors are becoming more violent and triggered than ever before. Anyways, be sure to subscribe to KGP TV on YouTube and have a blessed day. Yeah, man.